Okay, here we go. Hi, Mark. Thank you so much for joining us on today's episode of the new RBA podcast. We've done your introduction. I know people are going to be super excited about this conversation. And so we're going to jump right in. So, the first question I have for you is tell me a little bit about your journey. What inspired you to get into the baking culinary world?
Sure. Thanks, Kimberly. Linda, who is my sister, purchased a small bakery in downtown West Salem. Our population at that point was about 3,000 people. And that was a couple of years even before I thought about even having a bakery career. I was still in high school. I started working at the bakery and weekends and things when I was about 16. And I always liked working in the kitchen at home. We did a lot of baking and things like that. And I was definitely a night owl. So when I got a job that I could work at night and got sleep in the morning, I knew that was the career for me. Um, After
Yes.
high school, I attended Dunwoody Technical College in Minneapolis, and I took there the 1 year pastry and bread courses that they had offered at the time, which was actually a perfect fit for what we were doing in our bakery at the time. It was a good fit for us and in the things. So I became a partner with my sister Linda then about a year after. During that time, I also did a parallel stint. My family owned and operated a smaller grocery store here in town. So I did that for a number of years, and unfortunately, we had to close that store a little bit. But I learned a lot. I had a lot of insight from running a larger business doing that. And then I knew there that if I was going to keep running a bakery, we'd have to change from a small mom and pop bakery to a larger operation. I found it better to be the big fish in a small pond than the small fish in the big pond.
Mm-hmm. Nice. What an incredible journey. Okay. We're going to dig into those things, but I think I want to start with what's one of the biggest lessons you've learned in your career?
I think the biggest lesson is it's very important to love your work. I mean, we ask our staff at our annual meeting every year, it's like, do you love your job? And if you love your work, if you don't love your work, you should really consider working somewhere else. And it sounds like a strange thing to say to your staff, but, we found everything that we do. If they don't love working here and we don't love working here, it just really shows. And we do everything we can do to make sure Linda's Bakery is an employer that our staff wants to work for. The great thing about our work is we have something for everyone. And of course, anybody that's familiar with the bakery industry knows that we have mornings, afternoons, nights. We do a lot of hands-on work. We have a lot of customer service work. We have artsy work. We have production work. Really something for every talent of somebody that comes to us. So, but it's very important to get everybody on the right seat of the bus. To make sure that they're doing the job that really fits them, because that's really going to make them love their work. And like I said, if they don't love it, they're not going to be great staff members for you.
That is true. That's also the perfect segue into me wondering what advice would you give someone starting out in the industry? And with us, like kind of staying with where we are on them needing to love their work,
Uh-huh.
like if you could speak to someone, like we have lots of students at the RBA. And so if you were talking to them about, them looking for a job or looking for that next step, what advice would you give them?
Well, it kind of goes again to the same thing. Make sure your work is your passion. If you're going to be in the bakery industry, my daughter took a course in medicine, and one of the things I liked about the teacher, she had an introduction class that day, and she said, if you're not planning on working weekends and holidays, you're in the wrong class, because bakery is definitely not a Monday through Friday 9 to 5. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me.
I agree. My chefs told me that at school too. They told me if I wanted to see my children, then I should not go work in a hotel or go work at a restaurant. They were like, you need to open your own business.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, understood. And I did not do that. So I get it. Um, so you've been in the industry for a while.
Mhm.
Um, when we think about how the industry is changed, like what changes have you seen in the industry and where do you see it going?
When I started, it was back in the late 1970s, so I'm kind of dating myself there, but there are a lot more bakeries around the state and even across the nation. I think kind of the decline of the family bakery has been due to a lot of different factors.
Mhm.
Typically, with a bakery, the hours were long, the profits were small, work was kind of physically demanding. I can say for certain that the next generation is not really interested in a job or career like that. So, the bakeries that want to be viable in the future will need to improve on those factors and be forward thinking to survive.
Okay. Yeah, that. And where do you see the industry going?
It's hard to say, but I think there's always going to be baking careers available. I mean, people love good quality things. We try to do something unique. Obviously, we're in a very small town, and we've been fortunate enough to grow our business quite a bit. And I really kind of attribute that to being a unique place and not doing the same as everybody else. I think that's what people are going to need to do
Mm-hmm.
to stay alive.
Agree. Definitely agree with that. Okay, so I have a question for you. What is one piece of wisdom or encouragement you would like to share with our audience?
Again, kind of leading in, many bakeries turn to using mixes and proof and make products, and a lot of those things are very good, and they do it because of the shortage of skilled labor in our field. But
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion, that can be dangerous, slippery slope. If you're selling the same thing as all the supermarkets and the big box stores, you're never going to be able to beat them on price. So you need to offer something really unique that people will travel for, that they'll make a special trip for. It's
Mm-hmm.
something that provides an extra value for your customers. It's a more difficult path, but for us, it's really been what's kept us going and made us unique and successful.
Agree. I think that is incredible advice for anyone who is listening. I don't think anyone told me that when I was first starting out a decade ago. So I think that is absolutely wonderful. I want to thank you for joining me on this episode of The Perfect Rise. Please, everyone who is listening, make sure you share, follow, and subscribe to the podcast. And until next time, stay sweet, friends.